My mother got married again. At the wedding, she coaxed me to call that man Dad. I did as she said, but the man's son kicked me into the swimming pool and I almost lost my life. He looked down at me and said, "You don't deserve it." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I was only 7 years old at that time. My mother made empty promises to me, saying that as long as I was obedient, I could have as much meat as I wanted. I was so hungry, because in our hometown in the countryside, we couldn't even see a bit of meat for months. As a result, I almost drowned at the wedding. When I was fished out, my mother thought I had embarrassed her and directly threw me into the small dark room. She was flirting with her new husband, and I was so hungry that I was dizzy and crying. Someone pried open the window and threw in a hard steamed bun. I was starving, but I still managed to say thank you. The person outside snorted and said, "It's for the dog." Later I found out, the Meredith family was wealthy, and the person who kicked me into the pool that day was the young master of the family, Marlon Meredith. I heard that Marlon's mother died, and she was actually angered to death by my mother. So he hated me. He couldn't wait for me to die. After that, I would take a detour whenever I saw him, because every time I saw him, it would arouse my fear and despair of being drowned. But since we were living under the same roof, how could I avoid him? It was a rainy day. I had just entered the house and didn't have time to change my shoes. Marlon's car arrived behind me. The driver and the servant rushed up, showing their concern. I had nowhere to hide, so I shrank into the corner and kept my head down, hoping he would leave quickly. As a result, he stood at the door and said, "The shoes are dirty." A group of people were in a hurry. They wished they could wipe his shoes with their faces, and he looked at me cowering in the corner and lifted his chin. "You come and wipe them." I had no choice but to come out, take the towel from the servant, and was about to squat down, kneel and wipe them. He wanted me to kneel, and I didn't dare not to. But when I knelt down to wipe his shoes, he kicked me away. Spineless wretch. I covered my aching shoulder and thought that a hard bone was too brittle and easy to break. Soft bones were better. My mother was really capable. She quickly established her position in the Meredith family. But as her daughter, I didn't get the corresponding treatment. She was living a glamorous life every day, buying luxury brands and riding in luxury cars, squandering money. I still lived in the servants' room and worked like an ox in the Meredith family with the servants. Those servants bullied me and made me do all the dirty and tiring work. After the shoe wiping incident, they went even further. I endured it because I wanted to study. I didn't want to go back to that small mountain village where we could hardly eat meat a few times a year. Only by staying in the Meredith family could I have the chance to continue my studies. I thought that if I endured it for 10 years in this family, I could get ahead. After 10 years, I could take the college entrance examination and start a new life. But in the 10th year, when I was in my senior year of high school, my mother was caught having an affair and was almost beaten to death. But she refused to admit that she was cheating and even threatened to kill that little bitch. On a night with pouring rain, Marlon looked down on my mother and me like clowns. It was at this moment that I felt the terrifying coldness coming from him. His revenge began. I used the money I saved from part-time jobs during school to send my mother to the clinic. We couldn't go to a big hospital because I didn't have that much money. The doctor was shocked when he saw my mother's bloody face. "This is disfigurement." Not only was she disfigured, but one of her legs was also broken. From then on, she was bedridden and needed someone to take care of her for everything, including eating, drinking, and going to the toilet. "You'd better go to a big hospital." The doctor didn't dare to treat her. I paid for the painkillers and anti-inflammatory drugs. It's all up to fate. After leaving the Meredith family, I rented a civilian house in the suburbs because of the favor of helping an old woman who collected waste chase away wild dogs before. The environment was very bad. There was only a bed in the room, and the toilet was shared. The smell of the sewer often filled the air, and flies were flying around. The conditions were harsh, but I could still adapt. Before going to the Meredith family, the place I lived wasn't much better than this. But my mother wasn't satisfied. When she woke up in pain again, she slapped me. She wanted to go back to the Meredith family and continue to be Mrs. Meredith. I touched my numb face and said, "Okay, crawl back by yourself." She didn't know that on the day she was driven out of the Meredith family, there was a new mistress in that luxurious house. Men, they wished the women around them were disposable. She had enjoyed the good treatment for 10 years, and that was enough. She tried to hit me again, but I dodged. I hated my mother, but I couldn't leave her behind. After my grandmother died, she was the only family member I had in this world. I started going to class during the day and picking up garbage at night to save money. This was faster than saving money in the Meredith family, because in the Meredith family, I was a free laborer. I did more work than a donkey and ate less than a chicken. The key was that I didn't get paid. It was tough, but I was more free than in the Meredith family. But there were people who didn't want me to have a good life. Soon I realized that Marlon's revenge had spread to the school. My homework started to go missing from time to time. There were often dead rats and snakes in my desk. Once, I was locked in the cubicle when I went to the toilet, and when I finally opened the door, a large bucket of dirty water was poured on my head. No one admitted who did it. The people at school started looking at me in a strange way. I knew why. The things about my mother started spreading like wildfire on campus. If I hadn't been the top student in the grade every time, I would have been kicked out of school with my school bag. I thought I could endure it until the college entrance examination was over. Until one day, when I was on my way home after the evening self-study, I was blocked in the alley by a group of gangsters. I managed to run out. Outside the alley, I saw that familiar car and that familiar person. Marlon leaned against the car and looked towards the entrance of the alley, as if waiting for an exciting hunt, waiting for the prey to throw itself into the net and kneel in front of him like when I was a child. I stuffed the dagger into his hand and pressed it against my chest. You want to kill me? Come on. Stab me here. I went crazy. I was driven crazy by the mess my mother left behind. My mother drove the original wife to death, and she deserved it. But what about me? What was my fault? Marlon's eyes were gloomy and terrifying. He threw away my hand, and the dagger fell to the ground with a clang. Catherine, don't dirty my hands. After that night, I stopped going to school. I was prepared to suspend my studies, but unexpectedly, the school actually agreed that I didn't need to go to school and could just take the exams. I heaved a sigh of relief. If my studies were interrupted because of the Meredith family, I wouldn't be able to go to school for the rest of my life. I bet my fate on the college entrance examination. I started studying and doing exercises day and night, ignoring my mother's scolding. Her disabled leg was completely useless because it wasn't treated in time. Surprisingly, I thought it was better that way. If her leg was disabled, she wouldn't be able to run back to the Meredith family. For this reason, her temper became more and more irritable, making her disfigured face even more terrifying. When I picked up the broken bowls and plates on the ground again, I said to her, Mom, let's live a good life, be down to earth and live on our own. When I get into college and get a job, things will get better. She laughed when she heard that, and then started crying. She was like a madman. And then she grabbed the pillow on the bed and threw it at me. Get out. I left and went out for some air. The long-term suppression made my spirit as abnormal as my mother's. I was afraid that one day I would become a madman like her. There were still 2 months until the college entrance examination, and I didn't know if I could hold on. When I went back later, I found that there was no one in the bed. I was stunned and turned around to go out to look for her. However, I couldn't find her anywhere around. She was a cripple and couldn't even walk. How could she disappear? I called the police and asked the people around to help me look for her, but she was nowhere to be found. I went to the Meredith family to look for her, suspecting that Marlon had someone take her away. I secretly hid outside the Meredith family's villa and waited. Marlon finally came at night. I happened to hear him on the phone. Just kill her directly. My nerves tensed up, and I rushed up and grabbed his collar. Are you even human? My sudden outburst made me forget to be afraid. My sudden appearance caught Marlon off guard, and he was pushed against the car door. There was a flash of anger in his eyes, and he pushed me away. Crazy woman. The bodyguards of the Meredith family swarmed up and dragged me away. I shouted, You will get your comeuppance. No one paid attention to me. Ridiculous. The daughter of the mistress was shouting that someone would get retribution. In fact, I didn't feel sorry for my mother at all. I suddenly remembered that night when I first came to the Meredith family. It was so dark in that small dark room. I was so hungry. My mother who gave birth to me ignored me, but that young master who wanted me to die pried open the window and threw me a steamed bun. I thought that he still had a bit of kindness in him. I went back to the rental house in a daze and found money under the quilt. Banknotes. 5,000 yuan. It wasn't my money. It was left by my mother. But where did she get the money? Finally, I took the college entrance examination. During the exam, I vaguely heard about what happened at school. Someone was beaten to the point of being disabled, and the gangsters outside the school also suffered. I thought that the heavens had opened their eyes. After the college entrance examination, I still didn't return the civilian house. I would go to the nearby police station to ask about my mother's news whenever I had time. There was no news. She seemed to have evaporated from the world. 2 months later, I saved enough money for the tuition fee and entered a university. Looking at the household registration information, I frowned. My household registration was still in the Meredith family, and I also took the surname Sue. When my mother married into the Meredith family, she managed to get my household registration in. Later, when we were driven out, we didn't have the chance to deal with the household registration. I don't know why Marlon didn't throw out my household registration. I guess it was like what he said that night. He thought my business was dirty. I thought that the university would be a new start for me, but I didn't expect that what greeted me was the reopening of old wounds. During the military training, I met a girl from the same school. Audrey. It's you. Audrey threw the milk tea in her hand at my face in front of everyone. You shameless slut. I had a fight with Audrey. We pulled each other's hair, and finally we were taken to the dean's office. Audrey didn't expect me to fight back, so when we fought, she couldn't gain the upper hand at the first moment, and I overpowered her. I vented all the hatred I had accumulated in the past 3 years of high school on her. I knew it was her who spread my affairs all over the school. I also knew that it was her who led the students in the class to isolate me. I endured it for so long. I thought I could endure it for the rest of my life. But at the moment when the milk tea was splashed on my face, I didn't want to endure it anymore. I fought on the first day of school, and the counselor was very angry, especially after asking Audrey alone. The counselor's expression towards me changed. Audrey's parents were informed and they will come to school. Have you thought about how to deal with it? My expression froze slightly, and I suddenly remembered something. Audrey covered the place where her hair was pulled out and threatened me. Catherine, you wait. I didn't have the ferocity I had during the fight. I was stunned for a moment. My brain was hit hard as if by a sledgehammer. I forgot that Audrey was from the Meredith family. She was Marlon's cousin. Retribution came really quickly. Before I could come to my senses, I heard a voice outside the office. Hello. My eyelids twitched. Although his voice had changed during puberty, I could remember Marlon's voice for the rest of my life. Brother. Audrey rushed towards the door and hugged Marlon and started crying. Look at my hair. It's all because of her. Brother, you have to stand up for me. I just thought that the world was really small. The curse of the Meredith family seemed to imprison me for a lifetime. Could it be that I couldn't get rid of it for the rest of my life? Marlon patted Audrey's back and comforted her. Then he looked at me. After puberty, Marlon had grown into a man. He was tall and much taller than me. Looking at him approaching, I felt terrified. When I fought with Audrey, I could get the upper hand. When facing Marlon, I could only be tortured. The figure in front of me loomed over me. I had nowhere to run. The fear of almost drowning when I was a child came back again. He said, Catherine, you really know how to cause trouble. I injured Audrey. Not only did I have to pay for the medical compensation, but I was also at risk of being expelled. I ruined my hard-won chance at university just because of a cup of milk tea splashed on my face. The counselor looked at me sympathetically and couldn't bear it. So he gave me a piece of advice. You should beg Marlon. Marlon. Heh. The counselor thought I didn't know the ins and outs. So he reminded me. The Meredith Families Group donated 2 libraries to the school. He is someone I can't afford to provoke. I know that. But the counselor doesn't know that I've been entangled with the people of the Meredith family for more than 10 years. The instruction to expel me from school hasn't been issued yet, but it's like a knife hanging over my head. It could fall at any moment and crush me to pieces. I know I can't escape. That night, I went to Charm. Marlon was there. The place was full of feasting and revelry. It was the first time I had been to such a place. The madam's eyes lit up when she saw me. I'm looking for someone. I avoided her outstretched hand and stood there awkwardly. The madam pouted her bright red lips. Oh, my dear. Who are you looking for? I said I was looking for Marlon. Audrey said Marlon was here and told me to come and kneel and beg for mercy. The madam let out a yo and looked at me even more strangely. So she took me to the dressing room and gave me a set of clothes. Here, put these on. Seeing that I didn't take the clothes, the madam, for once, said patiently, everyone has to change their clothes to go in. So I changed. As long as I can see Marlon, I don't care if I have to wear this. Yes, I'm that shameless. The madam looked at me after I changed and her eyes shone like 24K gold. She took me to a private room. Before pushing the door open, she stuffed a business card into my arms. When the door opened, I saw Marlon in the private room, surrounded by beautiful women. There were beautiful women wearing the same JK short skirt around. The madam didn't lie to me about that. Everyone has to wear this when they come in. But the same clothes look completely different on different people. As soon as I entered, I felt the eyes from all directions. Some looks were full of malicious interest. Some were full of jealousy and resentment that couldn't be hidden. And Marlon, he was sitting in the middle of the crowd, like the moon surrounded by stars. He threw a meaningful look at me. Come here. He beckoned to me. It was like calling a dog. Under the malicious looks from all around, I walked over and sat beside him. The skirt was too short, and my hands were nervously placed on my legs. What are you doing here? The male aura beside me got closer. I shivered all over and forced myself to answer carefully. I came to apologize. Even the toughest person has to bow to reality. I heard a soft laugh in my ear. Catherine, you spineless wretch. It was full of mockery. That year, he made me kneel and wipe his shoes. And when I did, he called me a spineless wretch. Marlon smiled, and the people around him laughed too. They were all flattering Marlon, and I was alone. In a desperate situation, a hand stroked the back of my neck, and I shuddered all over. Marlon had my fate in his hands. Aren't you here to apologize? He smiled, looking elegant, but I felt cold all over because of his closeness. I'm sorry, I said. Is that all? Marlon pinched the back of my neck, and his fingertips were like setting my skin on fire, making my skin tingle. I suddenly realized and looked at him in disbelief. What do you want? I was wrong. I was horribly wrong. It turned out that Marlon had his eyes on me, and he wanted. No, I don't believe it. He had always thought I was dirty since I was a child. How could he take a fancy to me? Stop daydreaming. Catherine, choose one. Marlon gave me a choice. Looking at the wine glasses filled with wine on the tea table, he said, choose them, or choose me. There were sighs all around, and everyone looked excited. I picked up a wine glass and started drinking, one glass after another. I didn't notice Marlon's darkening face beside me. I'd rather drink myself to death than have anything to do with Marlon. I got drunk, and I didn't know if I was alive or dead. When I woke up the next day, I was in Marlon's bed in the hotel. I was naked. Audrey blocked the door and cursed me for being a shameless slut. The memories of last night were too chaotic, and I couldn't remember how I got involved with Marlon. I numbly dressed myself. Just as Audrey was about to rush in, Marlon came out of the washroom. He stopped her. Audrey was stunned. Brother. Marlon's face was gloomy. Get out. Audrey stormed out. After Audrey left, I left the room in a daze. Marlon suddenly called out to me. Catherine. I suddenly woke up and said to him with my back turned, I hope Marlon keeps his word. Then I quickened my pace and left without looking back. I don't have much obsession with this kind of thing with a man for the first time. Sure enough, Marlon kept his word, and my punishment was revoked. But the fact that I climbed into Marlon's bed was made known to the whole school again under Audrey's deliberate spreading. Since I was a child, the shadow of the Meredith family has been following me. And now, I've been labeled as Marlon's woman. The more I want to break free from this quagmire, the deeper I sink. I don't have to drop out of school, but I still have to pay for the medical expenses. Audrey, under the pretext of getting the compensation, led her lackeys to smash my dormitory twice. The others in my dormitory also had complaints about me. Audrey couldn't get me expelled from school, but she made it impossible for me to stay in the dormitory. Finally, after a big quarrel in the dormitory, my luggage was thrown out. I was homeless again. I moved my luggage to a budget hotel, and I fell silent looking at the amount in my bank card. When I was rummaging through my bag, a business card fell out. It was given to me by the Madam of Charm. At that time, she said that I could find her if I needed help. I needed money. I put on makeup on purpose because I didn't want anyone to recognize me. I went to apply for a job as a waiter because the waiters in Charm had a high salary and were paid daily. I could pay back the money I owed Audrey after half a month of hard work. The madam was unhappy when she heard that I just wanted to be a waiter, just serving tea and water and not going into the private rooms. She sent the foreman to take me and turned around to curse in a low voice. She's acting like a bitch but still pretending to be innocent. Bah. I heard her. She thought that when I went to find Marlon last time, I was offering myself. But I'm not that cheap. I just ran between the back kitchen and the hall all night. There were people who got handsy, but I dodged them nimbly. At 2 o'clock in the morning, a private room asked for fruits. I cut the fruits and waited for someone to take them. But there was a commotion in the private room. The foreman urged me to send the fruits. The customer was angry. I had to send the fruits. But as soon as I went in, a drunkard grabbed my hand. I struggled desperately and accidentally smashed the bottle on the drunkard's head. The moment the drunkard's head was bleeding, I knew I was finished. Just dealing with Audrey already made me in debt. This time, I was likely to be detained, fined, and had to pay a huge compensation. I panicked. At that moment, I wished I could die. But I couldn't die. Someone grabbed my hair tightly. The drunkard didn't pass out after getting hit on the head, and he just bled a little. "You shameless bitch." He cursed at me and dragged my hair, trying to smash my face against the edge of the tea table. If that happened, my face would be ruined. Then there was a loud bang. The wine bottle broke, and the wine splashed everywhere. I was terrified. The drunkard in front of me fell to the ground heavily. Marlon held a broken wine bottle and looked down at me. For a moment, I wanted to hug his legs and cry. Why was there so much malice in my world? But wasn't the source of this malice Marlon? But I still had to thank him, because if it weren't for him, I would have died tonight. Marlon bent down and stroked my bloody cheek with his fingers. I couldn't tell if there was pity or something else in his eyes. "Since you want to sell yourself, you might as well sell yourself to me." After dealing with the aftermath of hurting someone, the boss of Charm came. He was very affectionate towards Marlon and patted his chest, saying it was all his responsibility. He also glanced at me several times with a playful expression. What seemed like a huge thing to me was just a matter of a few words in their eyes. "Come with me." Marlon took me away from Charm. Just as we were about to go out, I suddenly stopped. Marlon squinted his eyes. "What? You don't want to leave?" I lowered my head and murmured, "I haven't received my salary for today." Marlon didn't expect me to mention the salary. He glanced at the boss of Charm. The boss quickly took a stack of banknotes from the front desk and stuffed them to me, saying it was to soothe my nerves. I only took 500 yuan and returned the rest. Marlon took me to his apartment. It was a large flat. He pointed to a bedroom. "That's yours." Before he turned around and left, I whispered thank you. He was like hearing a joke and turned to look at me. "Catherine, are you stupid?" I raised my face, and the confusion in my eyes seemed to amuse him. He turned and walked up to me, using his absolute height advantage to corner me. He bent down and whispered in my ear with a bad tone. "You're selling yourself, and I'm buying. It's a deal. Don't pretend to be innocent. Go. Come over after you've washed up." Marlon's words were like a slap in the face. I really wasn't qualified to be innocent. Even if I wanted to, it wouldn't be with him. I didn't deserve it, and he disdained it. I moved into this large flat. I thought I would be faced with his sarcasm, but to my surprise, I only saw him once a week. I gritted my teeth and took 4 part-time jobs to pay off Audrey's medical expenses. After that, Audrey blocked me in the class several times. The last time she found out that I was living in that apartment, she almost went crazy with anger. She pointed at my nose and cursed. "Catherine, you really are heartless." Audrey was arrogant, but when she said this, there was an indescribable look of breakdown on her face. I didn't understand. She thought I was pretending to be stupid. In a fit of anger, she threw the groceries in my hand on the floor and stomped on them. "You and your mother are really like ghosts that won't go away." I grabbed Audrey's hand. "What do you mean?" "It's true that my mother was the mistress, but she was disfigured, had her leg broken, and disappeared without a trace. She had already paid a terrible price for what she had done. I was bearing the consequences of what my mother had done. Why did she say I was heartless? I didn't know what I had done." Audrey pushed me away. "Catherine, my brother should have drowned you in the swimming pool back then." After that, Audrey never bothered me again. I don't know how many secrets the Meredith family has, and how many of them are related to my mother and me, but I don't have the ability to resolve them. I started the mode of combining going to class and working to make money again, but I never went to Charm again. I even stopped going to places like bars and KTVs. I washed dishes and worked as a waiter in a restaurant, did cleaning in a hotel, and tutored 2 junior high school students in math. I was as busy as a top every day and didn't have time to think about other things. In the first semester of my senior year, I successfully entered a company as an intern. The internship salary was good, and I cherished it. I planned to move out of this apartment after getting my first month's salary. Actually, I should have moved out a long time ago. However, during that time, when I went to look for a house, I either got scammed or encountered all kinds of problems. I guessed that Marlon was causing trouble. He wanted me to live there so he could keep an eye on me. I had to do as he wanted. I couldn't fight against him, but I don't want to be trapped here by him for the rest of my life. So I summoned up the courage to call him. This was the first time I took the initiative to contact him since I moved into the apartment. When the phone got through, Marlon's deep voice sounded. Speak. I pursed my lips. I want to move out. There was a sneer from the other side. Marlon had joined the Meredith family's group 2 years ago, and the time he spent at school was very limited. Now I could only see his figure on TV occasionally. He was the future heir of the Meredith family, a confirmed third-generation rich person. Okay. He hung up the phone after saying that. I held the phone for a long time before stopping my hands from shaking. It was the excitement of being about to break free. However, in the afternoon, before my internship salary arrived, an astonishing piece of news came from the work group. The small company I was in was acquired. The one who acquired it was the Meredith family's group. Marlon always made me despair at the moment when I saw hope. He taught me with countless facts to recognize one thing. That is, no matter what I do, I can't escape his control. I was in a daze all night and had a dream. In the dream, a strange woman was living in this apartment. I saw her push open the French window and walk towards the balcony. Then she jumped off. She fell from a high place and was horribly disfigured. But I clearly saw that face. It was me. I woke up in a cold sweat. I didn't even dare to look at the familiar balcony and grabbed my bag and rushed out. I went to the Meredith family's group. I wanted to see Marlon. I wanted to ask him what he really wanted to do. I was received by an assistant. Catherine, please wait. Mr. Marlon is still busy, probably seeing that I didn't look well. He asked the secretary to bring me a cup of hot drink. It was rose black tea, which was very similar to the blood in my dream. I couldn't help but retch. The secretary looked astonished. She's that woman. Yes, I've become Marlon's woman. I don't care about my reputation anymore. Because Audrey joined the Meredith family's group. Mr. Marlon keeps her in that apartment. Isn't she afraid? The whispers reached my ears, and I caught the key words. That apartment. Audrey blocked me downstairs in the apartment and said I was heartless. Now they were also talking about that apartment. What was in that apartment that made people reluctant to talk about it? Mrs. Meredith jumped off the building there back then. My brain buzzed. I felt cold all over in an instant. His mother committed suicide there. He hates my mother. He transferred his hatred onto me. He wants to wear me out until I die. I lost control of my emotions and fainted on the spot. Audrey said I was heartless. She thought my mother had killed Mrs. Meredith, and that I, the daughter of a murderer, living there was showing off in a disguised way. But she doesn't know. I'm just a sacrifice that Marlon picked to pay tribute to his mother. My mother was disfigured, had her leg broken, and then disappeared. He couldn't find anyone else to take his revenge on. There's only me left. I was in a coma for 2 days and 2 nights. When I woke up, the person I saw was Audrey. She looked at me with a sneer. Catherine, you're really stupid. I don't know why those arrogant people, the darlings of heaven, are like this. They can spend years torturing someone. Clearly, the person being tortured is as insignificant as a mayfly. They struggle to survive. But they still think the mayfly is an eyesore. Perhaps in their eyes, the mayfly's very existence is a sin. Hey, I'm talking to you. What's your attitude? Audrey was annoyed that I didn't say a word. How could I have any attitude? I numbly let Audrey throw a tantrum and curse in the ward, until the door was pushed open, and Audrey's scolding stopped abruptly. Marlon stood at the door, his face so dark that it seemed to drip ink. Audrey. He opened his mouth. Didn't I warn you not to show up in front of her again? Audrey was like a chicken with its neck choked, unable to make a sound. Get out. Audrey fled in a panic, even forgetting to give me a glare. There were only me and Marlon left in the ward. He stood at the end of the bed after coming in and looked at me from a distance. His cold and sharp eyes stared at me without moving. I really don't want to see him at this moment, but I have to face him. After all, I don't know when we'll meet again. That apartment was where your mother lived, I said calmly. Marlon showed no expression. He had entered the workplace and had learned to hide his emotions. You made me live there. You want me to jump off there one day and be buried with your mother. Right. When I said this, my heart felt as if it had been stabbed, empty and bleeding. 4 years ago, when I hurt someone in charm, he took me away. I had no place to live. And he took me in, even though he warned me not to act innocent. I thought I had developed a tough skin, but he still knows how to stab me to make me hurt more. Marlon, Master Marlon. At this moment, my eyes looking at him were full of pity. Even Marlon felt it. But in his eyes, this wasn't pity, it was provocation. I've never been so bold as I am today. I didn't flinch when I met his eyes that were as deep as a pool. Your mother is dead. What's the point of you torturing me and my mother? Why don't you deal with your father? The real culprit. You picked on me and my mother just because we're powerless and easy to bully. I said, you're nothing special. The man, standing at the end of the bed, stared at me. Suddenly, he laughed. As you wish. Levi, the chairman of the Meredith family group, died. He died on the day I was in a coma. I was in the ward for 2 days and didn't know about this at all. Only now do I understand Marlon's words. As you wish. He took revenge on all those who caused his mother's death. How will he take revenge on me next? Suddenly, I lost the will to struggle. My grandmother is gone. And my mother is missing. She's probably dead. I don't know who my father is. And I have no other relatives. I can't think of a reason to keep struggling. I'm quietly waiting for his judgment. But what did I wait for? Catherine, you're pregnant. Huh? No wonder the first thing Audrey said when I woke up was that I was stupid. Yes, I'm really stupid. I was imprisoned. There were people guarding outside the ward. The window was locked. And there was a maid who watched me all the time. I started a hunger strike. I really don't want to eat, but they have their ways. Nutrient injections. Nutrient solutions. Anything that can keep me alive was used. I don't know why things turned out like this, but judging by the situation, Marlon doesn't want me to die for now. It's also possible that it's because of the child in my belly. But what is this child? A product born out of the struggle and hatred. If it lives, it will continue the cycle of hatred. I'm already living a miserable life. Why should I let it follow in my footsteps? Finally, one day, I found an opportunity. The maid watching me thought I was asleep and went out to answer the phone. I pried open the lock of the window, opened the window, and tried to climb out. This is the 19th floor. The moment I opened the window, I felt unprecedented freedom. I thought, Marlon succeeded. He made me suffer for so many years, but he also made me willing to die. I was forcibly dragged back amidst the maid's screams. It was Marlon. He held me, his eyes blood red. Catherine, if you dare to die. I looked at him numbly. What am I afraid of? Don't I even have the freedom to die? I didn't die, but the child in my belly was gone. That night, Marlon held me, and his body was shaking. I seemed to see him crying. A month later, the doctor diagnosed that there was something wrong with my mental state, and I had the tendency to self-harm and commit suicide. Marlon took me out of the hospital. I hadn't seen the outside sky for a long time, and I was lost in thought. The car didn't stop. It seemed to drive for a long time. It was so long that I didn't know where we were. After 2 days of bumpy travel out of the province, we came to a police station in a small town. The police had already received the news and were waiting there. Mr. Marlon, the police officer got straight to the point. This is the information you need. Marlon asked me to sit beside him. Then I heard the police officer say, we found Miss Ashley, my mother. My mother was dead. She died 2 years ago. The police officer took out the information and continued. She was abducted here, but this case is also very special, because the abductor was caught and said that Ashley sold herself for 5,000 yuan. The abductor's confession was that she said she was a burden, but her daughter should live, so she sold herself. The 5,000 yuan hidden in the quilt was actually the money from selling herself. The buyer was a drunkard. He beat her to death after buying her and getting drunk. My tears fell one by one. No. This isn't the truth I want to hear. I cried so much that the sky and the earth seemed to turn upside down. Marlon wiped my tears and said, she wanted you to live, because someone wanted you to live. After going back, I started to receive psychological treatment. The 5,000 yuan in the card was still there. Not a penny was spent. I have to live to spend it. I moved out of that apartment, moved out my household registration, and changed back to my original surname. But Marlon and I became strangers from then on. Before graduating, I managed to get the quota to be an exchange student at school. Before leaving, he came to see me off and asked if I hated him. I said I didn't. Hatred can only come from love. We have no love. So where does the hatred come from? Marlon's chapter. My name is Marlon. When I was 7 years old, my mother died. My father married another woman. I knew that woman because she came in and scolded my mother when my mother was receiving psychological treatment. My mother couldn't stand the stimulation and jumped off the building that night. Less than a month later, my father married that woman. He also brought a little burden. That fool was instructed by that woman to call my father Dad. In front of everyone, the fool did as she was told. I kicked her into the swimming pool. That fool, being used as a gun and not even realizing it. Besides me, the Meredith family has countless illegitimate children. Those illegitimate children are all eyeing the inheritance. There are too many people who want to call my father Dad in public and take the opportunity to claim their right to the inheritance. Do they believe that once my old man gives the word, it will be her death sentence tonight? I wanted to kick her to death. Anyway, with her brain, she wouldn't be able to survive in the Meredith family. The little fool didn't drown, but her mother thought she was embarrassing and locked her in a small dark room. She cried like a ghost that night. I was blowing the wind behind the villa, and I was so annoyed by her crying. So I took a stick and pried open the window. Why are you crying? The little fool in the corner shrank in fear. I'm hungry. Hungry. That's right. She was kicked into the pool by me before the banquet, and after being fished out, she was thrown here. Where could I find something to eat? She was crying so much that it was annoying. I turned around and saw a steamed bun on the plate in the corner. I picked it up and threw it in, only to realize later. This was the food for the dog in the family. The little fool timidly thanked me, and I blurted out, "It's for the dog." After that, every time I met her in the Meredith family, she would run away. I heard that she lived in the servants' room and was bullied by the maids. Her mother was as selfish as mine, only caring about her own comfort and not caring about her children's lives. It's just that my situation was a bit better. At least my mother was dead, while her mother was still alive. But my situation wasn't much better either. When my mother was alive, I couldn't wait for her to die. After she died, I had a hard time in the Meredith family. My father's illegitimate children all wanted to kill me and take my place. They tried to find my weakness and strike at the root. They even poisoned the dog in the family. Humph. What weakness could I have? Then they turned their attention to the little fool's mother. That woman who was greedy for pleasure. As long as they pulled her down, someone could become Mrs. Meredith. To be honest, if it weren't for me, that woman wouldn't have survived 10 years in the Meredith family. The real reason I kept her was that she didn't have a son. As a result, that woman was so stupid that she thought I was trying to harm her. That woman was caught having an affair and was beaten until she was disabled. The little fool. Oh, the little fool who had grown up took that woman away. That night, I just came back. The way the little fool looked at me had changed. Her eyes were filled with fear, panic, and hatred. Humph. Hate me. There are so many people who hate me. I knew she took that woman to the clinic. Her disfigured face and broken leg. A small clinic couldn't treat her at all. All her money wasn't even enough for a fraction of the treatment. She didn't come back to the Meredith family for help. She just had a numb face and asked for painkillers and anti-inflammatory drugs. At this moment, I found that she was just like me. We were in the same situation, struggling in the same way, and we were both involuntarily in this situation. But also, sometimes, our hearts were as hard as iron. The new Mrs. Meredith, as soon as she entered the house, tried to make her son the heir. Ridiculous. I used some means to teach them a lesson. I was busy fighting wits with those people every day. The entire Meredith family became a battlefield without gunpowder smoke. The bloody storms were hidden behind everyone's false masks. And my father. He was like raising poisonous insects. He wanted to pick the most suitable heir in this way. Even though I'm his biological son protected by the law, even the wisest person can make mistakes. I was schemed against and got injured. When I was in the hospital, Audrey came to see me. Cousin. That Catherine hasn't dropped out of school. She goes to class during the day and picks up garbage at night. She's like a cockroach that can't be killed. Audrey is one of the few relatives I have, but she's talkative and annoying. I was flipping through a book without looking up, as if I didn't know the person she was talking about. But in my heart, I thought, she really is a cockroach that can't be killed. Just like me. I actually felt a sense of kinship. I have to find a way to drive her away, Audrey said. I suddenly frowned and closed the book. Somehow, I said, leave her alone. Audrey was startled and looked at me blankly. Brother. You. It took me half a month to recover. It was time for me to take action. That night, I was waiting for my illegitimate younger brother at the school alley. I heard that bastard was very arrogant at school and did a lot of immoral things in my name. While waiting, the bodyguard told me that bastard blocked someone in the alley with others. Very good. Since he's my brother, I plan to turn him into a knife holder tonight. However, the person I waited for was her. With messy clothes and a fierce look, she rushed towards me and stuffed a dagger into my hand, shouting at her chest, "You want me to die? Come on. Stab here." My face darkened, looking at the bloodstains on the dagger. I frowned. It was the blood of my brother, and it was dirty. Suddenly, my disgust surged, and I pushed her away. Catherine, don't dirty my hands. Later, I killed that illegitimate brother who dirtied my hands. I monitored all those who might fight back, including her. Catherine, I knew when that woman Ashley contacted the human traffickers. I always thought that woman was lucky. She lived a carefree life as a wealthy lady for 10 years with my tacit permission. She also had a stupid daughter who stuck by her. As long as she was honest, she could survive. But I didn't expect that the evil of human nature was far more than that. She wanted to sell Catherine. The price was already negotiated. 5,000 yuan. The time was set. They would take Catherine away after knocking her out. 5,000 yuan. Selling her own biological daughter. She couldn't not know what Catherine would face if she was sold. She would be taken to a remote mountain village and would never be able to escape. Very good. That woman succeeded in disgusting me again. My people directly played along with her plan and made her the one being sold. The little fool doesn't know that her mother wanted to sell her. I won't tell her what I did either. As for why I did this, I was just bored. I thought we wouldn't have any more interactions. Unexpectedly, we met when the university started. She was admitted to a university, the same school as me, TSK. She fought with Audrey as soon as she came. Audrey had a large patch of hair ripped out from her scalp and called me crying. I didn't have a good relationship with Audrey originally, but I still went. When she saw me, her dazed look actually pleased me. There were all shrewd people around me, but she looked so stupid. Isn't she stupid? How else could she not know that her own mother was trying to sell her? How else could she come to Charm looking like that to find me? She clearly couldn't drink, but she forced herself to. In the end, she passed out in my arms. Fine. She finally fell into my hands, and she did it willingly. I don't know what mood I was in, but I took her to a hotel. The next day, Audrey came and glared at me. I told her to get lost, making a fuss early in the morning. Doesn't she know how exhausting it is to take care of a drunk all night? I didn't even have a chance to speak. As a result, she looked as if she had been struck by lightning. Her expression irritated me. What? Is it that unbearable to be with me? After that, she went to Charm again to pay for Audrey's treatment. The boss of Charm contacted me. Remembering that morning, I sneered. It has nothing to do with me. But after hanging up the phone, I was inexplicably irritable. And in the end, I still went. When I got there, I saw that she was being bullied. At that moment, I erupted. Very well. They dared to touch the person who belonged to me. I picked up a wine bottle and smashed it on that person's head. I told her, "Come with me." This time, she was more obedient. It was as if she had accepted her fate. I took her to that apartment, because it was the closest to the school. Moreover, it was a private property left to me by my grandmother. My private territory. The boss of Charm was my friend. While drinking with him, he asked, "Are you really keeping that little beauty?" I gave him a cold glance. He smiled lewdly. "Do you like her that much?" I frowned. He quickly begged for mercy. I know. You're just playing around. Playing around. I thought. I've never played with women. She, Catherine, was the first. She just happened to be the first. When I told her not to act innocent, I just didn't want any trouble. She followed the rules. But I was still uncomfortable. The boss of Charm said I was unfulfilled. I snorted and told him to get lost. Just like that, 3 years passed, and the battle for the inheritance in the Meredith family entered a fierce stage. I was busy fighting for power and didn't go to see her for 3 months. When I did, I found that she was doing quite well on her own. She didn't seem to miss me at all and was secretly planning to move out. An ungrateful wretch. She was daydreaming. But why was I so conflicted? Why did I insist on her missing me and keeping her by my side? Was it because when I was young, I thought her indomitable spirit was like mine? One day, I drank too much in charm and asked this question. The boss stopped smiling and looked at me seriously. Marlon, you're in love with her. On the surface, I was calm, but my heart shrank suddenly, and a strange throbbing sensation spread throughout my body. I'm in love with her body. Indeed, Catherine had the capital. Since I was a child, I've seen so many beautiful women, celebrities, and supermodels of all types. But she, Catherine, was the most special. It's indescribable how special she is. Even if there were so many beautiful women sitting together, I would still notice her at first sight. The boss said, "No, you're in love with her." I was stunned as if struck by lightning. The boss added, "You've kept her by your side for almost 3 years and protected her for 3 years. Have you thought about the future? Have you thought about finding another woman after you get everything in the Meredith family?" I blurted out, "Get lost. I won't have any other women." The boss gave me a meaningful look. "See, you don't even know when you fell for her." I was confused. That night, I went to see her. After our passion, I held her in my arms and fantasized about having another woman. What if it wasn't Catherine? No, I couldn't think about it. Just thinking about it made me feel sick, and I felt a strange sense of unease. For a while, the boss of charm saw that I was preoccupied every time I came. He asked if the situation in the Meredith family had changed. I shook my head. No, it was almost time to close the net. No one could take away what was mine from me. "Then why are you unhappy?" he asked. I thought for a while and said, "How can I keep someone?" I even wanted to laugh at myself after saying that. Who could I keep? When I was a child, I longed for my parents' love. But my parents' marriage was an arranged one for the family. They each had their own lovers. Even I was a product of this arranged marriage. My mother didn't love me. She blamed me for getting in the way of her pursuing love. My father didn't love me either. He had so many women, and they all had sons for him. When I was a child, I even begged them to love me and care for me. But they didn't. I couldn't keep anyone. Even the dog I raised at home was poisoned to death by them. Everyone and everything around me was just passing by. No one would stay because of me. The boss thought for a while and suddenly asked, "Do you like children?" In that instant, I even wanted to retort, "No, I don't like children." But in my mind, another scene came to me. On the surface, I showed no emotion. But inside, my heart was in turmoil. Only I knew that I might not be as repulsed as I thought. Maybe he was right. I could try. I could have a child. Something to hold on to. I finally defeated my father. He died of a cerebral hemorrhage out of anger. And all his illegitimate children were useless. I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. But I still went to the hospital to see her as soon as possible. For no reason. I just wanted to go. Even if we just stayed together in silence. But she really didn't want to see me. She questioned me if I placed her in that apartment for revenge. To be buried with my mother. My mother. The woman who had wanted to kill me since I was a child. Did she deserve it? The reason I kept that apartment was because it was left to me by my grandmother. But the hatred in her eyes still infuriated me. She had a miscarriage. The child was gone. At that moment, I saw relief in her eyes. She started a hunger strike and wanted to die. The doctor said she had a strong tendency to commit suicide. Humph. She hated me to death. It was good that the child was gone. But when I turned and left the ward, my eyes turned red. My little bit of despicable expectation was completely destroyed by her in reality. You come and wipe. But I didn't want her to die. I had someone change the truth and created an image of a great mother who sold herself to keep her daughter alive. That day, she finally broke down and cried. It was as if she had come back to life. As long as a person has the will to live, even if they carry a lot of past burdens, they can get up and move on. She moved out of that apartment and decided to go abroad. I didn't stop her. I just went to see her before she left. In front of the curling coffee, I faced her and asked a stupid question. "Do you hate me?" She said, "No." "Yes. Hatred comes from love." Who am I to her? Audrey came and chided me. "Brother, are you stupid?" My usually sharp-tongued cousin, who couldn't say a decent word, said I was stupid with red eyes. I couldn't even refute. It seemed that I was really stupid. I was craving something that didn't belong to me. People shouldn't have wild thoughts. I wanted to tie her to me, but I didn't realize that I was the one weaving the cage. Before the cage was completely sealed, I pushed her out. I thought, she yearned for freedom so much. She didn't deserve to be trapped here with me. If I could turn back time and go back to the day of my father's wedding, back to the starting point of the cage I wove, I think I would hold that little fool's hand and ask her, "Do you want to come with me? We could escape together." The end.